Hello everybody, this is Houston Brown with Houston Brown Photography, and looking at this video I think I need to shave a little bit, but anyways, welcome back to the Lightroom workflow. In this episode we're going to be covering the importing and exporting of images. Now that seems a little elementary, I know, but if you're just starting out with Lightroom it could be quite helpful. Even if you're somewhat of a seasoned veteran, you might find some use in this, maybe a couple of tips or tricks, or if nothing else, it's good for a little review or maybe even a little humor. Who knows? Anyways, let's get started. So we're going to start with this SD card and plug it into our card reader. And if you haven't messed with your Lightroom defaults, then this screen should pop up. Now it may pop up with a little bit different configuration up here, maybe say copy as DNG, but it should have all the photos checked. And we're of course moving from left to right on this screen. So this is our source. I put the card in, so by default it's going to say whatever is on your card. And this is where it's going, is over here, and this is really what we want to focus on over here. What's our file handling, file renaming, etc. Of course we don't have to fill all of these out, but here are some things that I like to fill out. I don't really mess with the file handling other than this don't import suspected duplicates. And then I come down here to apply during import, and I want to put my meta information, basically my copyright information. Now, I know this says 2013, but I use this same file every year and just change the text in it, so it's always called 2013. I need to rename that to copyright. Keywords, as we talked about in the previous video, this is a good place to put in keywords that of course will be common to all of these images. And two things that come to mind, or two things that I use, are the address, the street address. So I'm going to put in somewhere street, and then we want to separate our keywords by a comma, so I'm going to put in comma. And the other thing that I put in is the realtor's name. So let's put in John Doe in this case, and then this will be applied to all the images in there. And that way in the future, if I need to see, oh, how many images or how many places did I shoot for John Doe, or John Doe calls me back in a few months and says, hey, can you send me those pictures again, or whatever reason, I can easily go and find them if I can't find it in my library. This would be real easy to go find because it would narrow it down to him. Now if I can remember the street name, then I could do that too. Where do we want to put this? So I'm going to come down here, and as I'd mentioned before in 2 videos ago about folder hierarchy and where to store your images, I have an external drive totally dedicated to photography. So in that I have my Lightroom library, and then of course photography. So I'm going to twirl that down. And in my previous video I spoke about awaiting review, and this is where all my images go, all my projects go initially until I'm done with it, and then I move them. So if you missed that, you need to go back a video and check that out. So I'm going to twirl this down, and then I'm going to create a folder down here, but I don't want to do that here. So awaiting review is where I want to go. So I'm going to go back up here and say input this into subfolder 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have to put a hyphen in here because it won't let me put a space. If I put a space, it says no. That's what the red means. So space somewhere, you might be able to turn that off. I've never looked into it. That's fine. It's just a subfolder name. So that's where I want it to go, and we are ready to import. So I'm just going to click here on import. Now immediately it goes to the current import up here. I generally come over here and click on the actual folder that I just created, and of course it is under awaiting review, so that works. So we just wait a few minutes for this to import, and of course with the miracle of video it will be instantaneous. Alright, so all the images have been imported. You can see there's 125. So that is the down and dirty, simple, easy way to import your images. Apply some tagging. If you wanted to, which I kind of skipped this part, we kind of went right over that. But after the keywordings, or actually before the keywordings, I should have done this quick develop. If you have any presets, which I don't use this is why I kind of skipped it, is as you're going through the house shooting, there's too many variances to apply any one thing. Now, if you're using say an 18 to 35 millimeter lens and you shoot everything at 18, then I suppose you could go there and do some lens correction to all of them. but you certainly wouldn't want to do that to every image if you're kind of varying that from room to room, which I do, so I don't really use that. But you could obviously apply those as well. So what we covered initially is generally all I do for the import. Now there is another way to import which I prefer, and I've always been told it's actually a little faster, which it's not that much faster, but for some reason I like it better because rather than creating that subdirectory in here and letting it do all that, which is fine, I just kind of prefer to do it myself. So here's an alternate way to import your images. So I'm going to stop this building of previews, and I'm going to go ahead and delete this folder that we just imported. I'm going to say yes, remove. And then I'm going to go back to my Finder. I'm going to put my card back in the card reader. Should show up right down here. There you go. And I'm just going to zip over here, and here's all the images on my card. And then I'm going to open up another occurrence of Finder, and I'm going to go to my photography drive, and here's my awaiting review, and then I'm going to add that same folder here. So 1, 2, 3, 4 somewhere street, and here I don't have to worry about dashes, of course. And then now that that's set, this is where I want all the images to come. So I'm going to come back over here to where my card is. I'm going to select all, give myself a little room here, and I'm just going to click and drag this over into here. And once again, that's going to take a little bit of time, but we'll just jump forward. All right, so now all the images are copied over. So now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 somewhere street. Now, all I have to do, you're not going to be able to see this on the screen, and this doesn't work for people on a PC. I tried this on a friend's PC. It didn't work. So you actually have to go on a PC and click the import button and then navigate to this drive, which may negate the whole process. But if you're on a Mac, all you have to do is click and drag this folder on top of your Lightroom icon down in your toolbar, and it's going to launch this for you, and it's already, all of this is already set up as far as where it's importing from, etc., etc. As you can already see, it's got in the photography drive awaiting review, 1, 2, 3, 4 somewhere street, and at this point we are not really importing onto the hard drive. We're just importing into the catalog because the images are already on the drive. Lightroom just needs to know where it is. And that is why add is up here and not copy or move or copy as DNG, because it's already on there. It's just adding to the catalog. All this other stuff over here, you notice we don't have as much to apply on here, but we can do keywords and we can do some file handling, and that's good for me. But now I know where everything is, and this is just a matter of preference. I did hear that this was a little faster, but it's not anything earth-shattering faster. So I mean, unless you're doing, I don't know, 8 or 10 houses a day or something, then maybe it's critical, but other than that I think you're good. But I just prefer this way, and this is just the other way to do it. So I'm just going to click import, and again it's going to default to this current import. I click down here so I can look at that. Just a personal preference. You don't have to. And you can see how fast it recognizes all that and starts building previews. So already I'm ready to go. So I do think it's a little bit faster, but again, not terribly critical. So now that we've got that, now that we've got the images in here, as far as ranking them and everything, that's what we did in the previous video. But now I want to talk about exporting your images. And this is really probably a little bit more critical than the importing. I teach quite a bit and attend a local photography club here in Dallas. And through some of my training and working with some other people, I had noticed that people were still doing things kind of the old-fashioned way. And I'm calling it old-fashioned because it seems old-fashioned. But what they would do is they get a picture out of their camera that's, 24 megapixels, and they're going to hand an image in for a competition that's going to be projected. So they got to bring that down to a reasonable size. Let's just say, for argument's sake, 1200 pixels on the long side. Okay. So what they would do is they would take that image, bring it into Photoshop, resize it, and then they would save that image to some arbitrary folder called whatever they did, or whatever their methodology was for storing that. And then if they wanted a print version, there's a second version of the image. And then if they wanted a different size, there was a third. So they'd do this for any variance of the sizes, any edits. So they would have 4, 5, 6, 7 copies of the same image. So when they started using Lightroom, they were still sticking to this methodology. And I was like, stop doing that. You only need one version of the image, and that's the master image, because this is a non-destructive editing tool. You're not actually doing any edits to this image. These are just, Lightroom just creates a series of commands to apply to the image that you're looking at, and that's it. It doesn't work anything like Photoshop. So, well, even Photoshop can be non-destructive, I understand, but still there's a Photoshop file. All right, so let's export some images. I'm going to go back here to Loop View, and for the sake of time, I'm not going to select all these images, but let's select a chunk of them. But normally I would filter these images and select all of them and then hit export, of course. So I'm just going to select these few. I'm going to hit export. So I already have some presets set up here to give my client a print and a standard web format, and of course a video still, but we don't need to get into that. So how you would initially set this up, if you haven't already, is just come in here, set all this up, go through all of these variables that you can change in here. Now, as I said before, this is only a temporary image. Once I've uploaded it to Google Drive or Dropbox or whatever cloud service you're using, or however you're sharing your images with your client, I'm only sending it there one time. Once it's up there, this can be deleted. So I just have a temp folder on my drive that I send everything to like this. And then I click this box that says put in subfolder, and then I call it whatever I need to. In this case, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 somewhere. And then so I'm putting the word print at the end here. Then I'm going to select everything. And then I'm going to copy. I'm hitting Command C to copy, and I'm coming down here to custom text. Now I have this renaming my image to a custom name and then a sequence number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc. So here I'm going to paste this, and it's going to put it in this subfolder. Then let's scroll down here. It's not video. We want JPEGs of the highest quality. I assume you want JPEGs. I guess you could do any other file format that you want. We're not going to resize prints. I'm giving my client the full size, standard output sharpening, and that's the rest of my settings. So now that I've got everything the way I want it, so I go down here and I click Add, and I call it whatever I want. So I'm going to call it Test Print. And we want it in Sample Client because I want it to show up right here, and you could put whatever you want up here. You could put it in user presets, but it gets mixed up in all this other stuff. So put it up here, or I'm going to put it up here into Sample Client, hit Create, and there it is, Test Print, which is the same for me as Standard Web, but that's how you would go and set that up. Now that I've got it all done, I'm going to hit Export. While that's exporting, I'm going to hit Export again, which is going to bring up the same dialog box, but this time I already have a preset set up for web. So I just click on web, and the only thing I have to change is this name. So we already have that on our clipboard. So I'm going to hit Command V to paste it, but I'm going to change print to web. Again, copy all this. So this says 1, 2, 3, 4 somewhere web, and hit export. And now we see two operations at the same time going up here. All we have to do is go, if you had tons of images, you go have a cup of coffee, go to the bathroom, whatever. And then when you come back, it will all be done. And then I'm going to go over here to my Finder window. and we'll go to our temp. And up here, here's the two folders, the 1, 2, 3, 4 somewhere print. Here's all the print copies. 1, 2, 3, 4 somewhere web. Here's all of the web copies. At this point, before delivery, I'm going to select both of these. I'm pretty sure you can do this on a PC, but I right click and I hit compress two items. It's going to compress those two items into a zip file. And then of course I would rename this file the name of the street. And then at this point I would drag this over here to my Google Drive, which is going to upload it to my Google Drive. And then when that's done, I send them the link and that's it. I'm done. Now, once that is done, this is my temp folder. I can select these two and delete it. They're done. I don't have to keep them. If I need to, if they call me in 2 weeks or a month and say, hey, we lost those images or something happened, who knows, whatever, you need to get back to them again. All you have to do is go in here, select those same images, which are going to be all your, in my case, are going to be all the 4-star images, hit export, go to test print, change the name, etc., etc. And I mean, that doesn't take long at all. It's a lot better than exporting images of different sizes and putting them in a folder so you have access to them all the time. And then you start doing that for multiple clients. Now you're just exponentially taking up space and having to manage many more images. So that concludes this video. Hopefully you got something out of that. Maybe that will help. That is my workflow. So as always, if you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, then I guess you could hit the other one. If you have some questions or comments, you know where to put them. And in the next video, we're going to be covering Adobe Creative Cloud Mobile, a very handy tool for you and your clients. So we'll see you in the next video.